Okay. All right, so we'll start up with, again, just a little broad market outlook. Kind of highlighted this yesterday in the big picture, where we're starting to see ourselves trading in this new range, 5% range from 470 to 450 in this buy, as much as we want this 450 to hold. And it just as well may hold this next time if it pulls into here. But in reality, as much as we want this like perfect area of support to really hold, it probably is going to have to shake and go lower. And again, that probably be better for us in the long term anyways. And even if we came into 425, that would kind of give us the correction that we would need and would give us a pretty solid trading range to trade into. Again, as we continue to shift in this range bound market, we have to kind of look for things when they look the worst. So it's very hard to look to put on risk like these days. Like, after the Fed minutes, everything looked amazing. Looked like we're going to run right back to highs or to new highs. And the next 2 days kind of just reversed it. And that's just kind of in this range bound market. It always seems the easiest like these days when it's much harder, but we really have to be thinking when it's down here. So even if this comes into support, we kind of have to be looking for buys when it's here. And then knowing that eventually, if we continue to trade in this range, eventually that support area is going to break and break lower. And that's when we have to just kind of take those quick little losses and move on. So moving on, again, small caps, in this key support level, as it continues to kind of H lower, this is kind of that topic of what I mentioned with the SPY. Like the more times it comes into 450, eventually it's going to break. But if it's going to hold here, 5 or 6 or 8 times, we want to be the people that are kind of buying in here and getting rid of stock up here, then in the camp of just always buying near resistance, and we're not getting that follow through. Eventually, again, support would break. But when that day comes, that's when we kind of cross it. Sector wise, BCR, the discretionaries, this was one where kind of going to that topic of support breaking, where I tried to pick up some discretionaries recently, like near the support area, and I was just too early. And that's when we have to just kind of look for those exits. Again, it's for a sector, so I'm not really swing trading this. I'm not going to just like have a low day stop, but this is kind of that principle of, we want to look to buy support, but there will come a time when it's going to break, and we have to just kind of be aware of that. A few other sectors on the flip side, consumer staples have been doing very well during this little run up, really unfazed with kind of the internal action we've seen with most individual names. And this was one that I had, I was just kind of taking some profits in. So, maybe BCR wasn't the best trades sector wise, or VDC kind of picked up some of the slack. And same with utilities. We mentioned kind of the last 2 weeks, like we should expect utilities to continue to break out as people rush to the least riskiest sector. And when we kind of get that blow off top, that would be the time to look to take some profits in it. And that was something that I did. It retested, it broke a little bit higher, but as we typically see, we'll retest, they lose momentum, and then they start to pull back in. So this was one where I was able to just free up some cash given the run up that it had. Moving on to some stocks, GDYN is probably the only name I'm still in the last week or two. Pretty crappy day on Friday, where it opened and just kind of sold off completely, but still holding that 36 stop. So still in that for now. Main mistake from last week was this PAYC. Again, I was comparing this to Nike. Again, Mo called this one out, earlier in the summer, and it just looked very similar. But the mistake I made in PAYC was just getting into it too soon. I didn't wait for it to bottom out and was looking to buy up. I was just getting in too soon, and that was like in this Nike, kind of like in this equivalent spot. Like it had broken its earnings day low. It was shaking out. Like this was kind of where I got in PAYC and lost money as a result. And I have to just wait for it to really settle out and put in an actual low, and then look for that proper entry, just not trying to rush it. Again, support buy wise, we have started to see some support buys kind of turn into actual shorts. eBay was a good example where this was when I was looking at buy up through 68. Never triggered, so I never got in. But this was a very, on the flip side, could have been an easy short down through 65 or 66. So just kind of keep an eye on, again, some of those support buys, they can be tight entries, but if they don't work, we do want to look to get out of them pretty quickly. Moving on to names I'm keeping an eye on for the week, we have IRDM. Again, it's pretty wide, so this isn't a name that I'm going to want to buy, say tomorrow or today, even up through 42. But if it can continue to stay inside this, $4 range, tighten up a little bit more, maybe get it 40 versus 42, then it could look for, an entry up to this base. LIVN, another one, nice flag that's been forming up here. Again, the bigger triggers would probably be up to this 90 area, but we can see this 85 is clearly level. So a lot of things still setting up. Same with this box, 27 versus 25. This PUBM up through this 40, 44 area. Again, there's a lot of things that are setting up, but not much that's like ready to go this week. It's just kind of seeing what will be ready in time. Let's see, TBI, up through this 28, THRM, this 82, and also 90 area in time as it's kind of coming into this support area, whether it's going to be 72 or this 75 area. WDC, we saw, this stage 3 breakdown. We saw the base start to form. We're seeing now, higher lows forming. This was the low. Now we see some new higher lows forming. So eventually this break out of this base up through 60. Maybe we see it move eventually back up to the retest of those prior highs. Zebra, still flagging. This is one I almost got ticked into last week with the 615.05 buy stop, but didn't get triggered. So still flagging nicely in this range. And the last two, HAYW, up through this 26 area, 27 area, and then a much bigger pattern, of course, this Amazon, just very, nice big flag has been forming here for the better part of a year now. So eventually up to this 36, 38, we should probably see, 4,000 or 5,000 in time. But again, really not much going on. I have no orders in the system at the moment. I did post in the chat this watch list of these like 30 or so names that I'm keeping a closer eye on, just so if you guys want to look through them after this call, it might be a little bit easier to go through them than just writing down the ones that I just went over. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys. If you guys, anyone else wants to go over a couple names, by all means, we can jump in and go over a couple ideas before the market opens.
Yeah, Ben, I was going to say, I'm trying to be as hands-off as possible. I spoke to Sheikh yesterday. There's like no reason to put any risk on. One name I was looking at Friday, mRNA, was looking good through 300. But you can see the pre-market gap up right now. I think it just tapped like 320, 321. So like that's taken away. I was looking at RBLX. That looked really good from a support standpoint, where it just held. It held 92. You can see like prior weeks holding that support. So like obviously the buyback up through resistance, I think through 102 or 104. So just, yeah, literally. So that looks good. Yeah. If it holds, obviously, but I'm no rush, just kind of building a shopping list. And then Oracle was one where it was holding the earnings flag for a while, and then you can see the gap down to like 96. So you kind of want to see it like find some sort of support, but it has strong earnings behind it. But again, it's like days like this, weeks like this. I was talking to Sheikh, and Ben, this even earlier in the year, like we spoke like May, June, like when we went on the trip. We bumped into a choppy market, and I would find these days where, I'm trying to force a trade, and, I'm taking 2, 3, 4 paper cuts before I realize that, oh shit, I'm trading the chop right now. So I think one thing trying to get better is, let the market stop. And you do this so well where it's like, you don't put on a trade until 10:30 or 11 o'clock. So you kind of let the trend get established. And that's one thing I'm working on, where it's like, let the market tell you what's happening instead of you wanting to, guess what the market is doing.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
It's just, I feel like doing just less is more.
Yeah.
But again, it's always easier. And even for me, like with this PAYC, like this should have been a trade that I should not have got into. Initially, it was like I was really wanting to buy up through 440. And I saw it kind of coming in more. And I'm like, all right, instead of buying 440 versus 400, it's 10%. All right, let me, it shook out this low here. Let me buy on the way up versus that low, and let me take that shot. And it, whatever, I lost, 4%. And that may be annoying in the moment. But in reality, for the last 2 weeks, really, other than this trade and this GDYN, I really have done nothing. So for that little, I'm not trying to justify this loss. and saying it was good in any respect, but it's the fact that like of the last 2 weeks for what has happened, this is my only like paper cut to speak of, where the rest is just like, no, I've just been sitting and waiting. I've had buy stops in, like I've had the 68 entry in eBay that would have failed, but I just waited for the entry. It never triggered. So I avoided that trade. But even though I didn't have to lose the money from it, I can look at it and be like, look, I wanted to buy 68. I thought that could have had to move up through 68 versus the 66, 65 area. But clearly I was wrong. Clearly that as these names are coming into support and they're kind of holding here, they're more likely going to roll lower than have that. Like when we see the names coming to support, we want to see this type of move the second or third time, when in reality, it's becoming just a much more obvious support buy. And when it becomes more obvious, you don't get those quick moves. And that's kind of what we're starting to see now. So definitely agree with, a lot of points you mentioned, and, just being able to do less, like even for me, I have a bunch of things I'm looking at, but there's nothing here that, like, if any of these things were to go today, if Box was to go or TBI or any of them, I wouldn't really care. Maybe only Zebra, just because I, have been watching it, but I do have a buy stop in this. But for the most part, out of these 20 or 30 names, any of them broke out today, I'm not going to care. Just because knowing the overall environment, we're not going to be able to be in every single up move. We just need to wait for kind of our pockets when we can take advantage. And we're not really just seeing that right now. We're dead smack in the middle of this range. It is kind of the end of the year when most people aren't really doing much. So just being patient, looking for names and having that watch ready definitely seems to be, the easiest plan to follow. Let's see, Joe, you looking at anything?
Probably just like the big sentiment around here is just really building a shopping list, but just kind of scrolling through what I have. This MCK, it's building this flag. Over the weekend, I was really just trying to find things that were holding their flags or holding their support level through that big sell-off on Friday and whatnot. So I got a list. Everything's pretty much just building. Not really anything I'm looking to get into right away. So that's kind of what the my sentiment is here. Kind of hands off, and I've got 3 positions on, and just looking to manage those.
Gotcha. Cool. Let's see. Mark, you looking at anything?
Pretty much as Mo have been just told. It will be also for me a risk of a week unless I see a really A+ thing that it's coming up. But I have some charts, and the fact is that there are pretty nice setups. For example, this LLI.
LLI?
Sorry, LLY. LLY.
Gotcha.
LLY, it's been holding the gap up. It's been compared to the market with certain relative strength. Today it's gapping up a bit. It looks like it's holding this 270 level. So perhaps this week with a good market, this one should go. But definitely it's a week that as far as it could goes up, it quickly reverses and come back. So yeah, for me, I think that this will be a difficult week because it's not the best environment for me to trade during this choppy market. Also, I found this ICLR.
Oh, okay.
That's also a very nice setup, flagging at this 290 level, looks very nice. But again, with good market conditions, it will be a very nice for starter. It's holding very well above the 21 MA. It's been when market goes down, in every time the prices are holding these 270 levels. So definitely it's a very nice chart, but what I just said, I need to see these days. I will need to see some volume, good action, and not rather throwing risk and getting chopped out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think this is probably the best chart, even like sector wise. IBB, the biotechs have been getting a little bit more beat up lately. Like they kind of led the initial of like the 12% main sectors. Biotechs have been the kind of the first ones to really get, to really pull in compared to most of the other sectors. And this is the first sector that's kind of, starting to kind of base out more and look okay among the rest, where the rest are either very extended or just starting to kind of break down. So it's like if, ICLR is probably one of the best, pharma biotech names, where if that sector is starting to maybe catch a little bit of a bid, and this is the best chart in that sector, like this probably, is probably one of the best names, at least on this little call that we've gone over. On a separate note, again, at the end of the year, one of the things that I do that, especially since the market's been kind of slow, this could be a great thing to kind of keep you busy. I always do like an end of year recap of the business of trading, personal stuff, and kind of recapping what went well, what could be improved on, and what to focus on for the year ahead. And, some years it could take, 10 or 15 hours to kind of really go through and put everything together. Some years it could be a little bit quicker, but that could be something I can send you if anyone wants it. I can put just like the general questions for each, topic, for trading, for work, for your own business, things like that. And then you can kind of walk through and it's more like a journal, but you can walk through and see the performance, see what you did well. And that's also something that can kind of take your eye off the market, and you can take a look kind of at the bigger picture of kind of how you performed over this entire year, and not just, oh, this last couple of weeks have been kind of crappy. So if anyone wants that, I'll post it in the Alpha chat after this. And if anyone wants to go over it with me or anyone else, or with Shake, we can always go over the plan as well if anyone wants that. All right, guys. So anyone else, any last words? I think we're good. All right, guys. You guys have a good trading day, good end of the year, and I'll talk to you guys in the chat.
All right, bye guys.
Thank you.
Take care,
Bye.
guys.